Okay, hi again, everyone. This is Renegade Healer. My name is Kate Mooney, and today I'm going to continue a conversation that I actually started a few days ago with a post that I was wanting to do for a really long time. So I've been really happy and excited by the momentum that post has taken. There's been quite a bit of interest and feedback, which I love. So that post, if you want to sort of start at the start, if you look back at that post, was about what you need to know about the healthcare system and your role in it. It's about a half-hour post. I will really encourage people to listen to it. You don't really need to ever watch my posts. There's not really anything to see. It's just about having a conversation. So especially if you're coming to Renegade Healer as a healer yourself, like somebody who's in the process of healing, if you've found me through brain injury or concussion recovery, save your screen time. You don't need to see me. Hi. There's nothing to see here. Anyway, okay. So I started off talking about kind of understanding the lay of the land in the healthcare system and understanding, I guess maybe trying to dispel some of the false assumptions and misunderstandings that many of us have about the way the healthcare system flows. And so the snippet, if you didn't see the original, you don't want to go back, the snippet is that we have to stop expecting our system to flow like a system, because it doesn't. It's too overburdened right now, and we're just dealing with human beings. So things sort of are a little bit sluggish and discombobulating. And also, there's a lot of measures that are put in place to protect privacy, which is very important, but it slows down flow of information. So an example I gave last time was if you have a test ordered by a specific doctor, then the test results will go to that doctor. So you assume, a lot of the time people assume that their doctor, even if they're not the ordering physician, will get copies, because usually they ask us, do you have a care provider and what's the name of your doctor? So we sort of make these assumptions that this information is going to sort of just flow naturally to the people who need it. That's not always the case. So one of the bits of advice that I had given in terms of self-advocacy had been to make sure that you sort of track who orders tests and where you've been, so that you can follow up with your own caregiver. Okay, so that was one piece. Another piece was just recognizing how critically just how hard our healthcare providers are working, and the atmosphere that they're working in, with so much demand and this ever-growing aging population with high needs, but not enough really resources and space. And no matter what your opinions or beliefs are about economy and government and responsibility, it's never going to be enough. It's too much all at once, and systems don't move fast enough. So we have to take responsibility for ourselves and recognize the impact of our own behavior and choices on our experience, the experience of everyone around us. So this is just like survival in the healthcare system. Maybe bad choice of words, but anyway. So that's the lowdown. What I want to do today is get a little bit more specific with some ideas around self-advocacy and advocacy, like supporting your loved ones and others. So I use the expression quarterbacking in my last video, and I use it a lot, kind of like organizing and calling the plays, right? That's how I think of it. It's actually stole it from a coworker from a few years ago. So hopefully he doesn't mind. But anyway, so how to quarterback either your own care or the care of somebody that you love. So one of the big things that I've mentioned, and I will always come back to because it's hugely important, is just journaling, documenting. And when I say this, like, you don't have to write pages and pages, right? They can just be little jot notes, dates, symptoms, names of people that you encounter as caregivers, facilities that you've attended, tests that have been ordered. And you, as I've said before, obviously when you're sick or your loved one is sick and you're under a lot of stress and you're concerned about them, you don't necessarily think to do all of this stuff. So just make the habit of asking for a little jot note from the people who are providing your care. You know, if you've been to the ER, just a little jot note, or and you have the right to actually ask for copies of test results yourself. Often you'll have to like sign a little waiver to say that you've been given this information, but you have every right to ask for written documentation of your care experience, and that's actually really good practice, because then you're taking responsibility and involving yourself as part of your own care team. So get that journal and make it a habit, and get it small enough that it fits in your purse or your pocket or just the glove box of your car, so that it becomes a habit to have it and to use it. Okay. So then now what I want to do is I want to help you to add value to that, to use it really well, and to think about what information and knowledge you should be cultivating to make that journaling or that really useful, or even if you don't end up doing the journaling, but just that to sort of have that knowledge in your mind. So first, oh gosh, your meds. If you're on medication, if your loved one is on medication, make a list. Make a note of the dosages, and if there's any changes in the dosages, go back and make sure that you document that. Try to make yourself aware of what medications are used for, like why you're on them, especially if you or the person you're supporting are on quite a few medications, because sometimes we just take it and trust that our doctors know what they're doing, and that's good. It's good that you trust your doctor, but you have to be the person who's sort of noting and double checking and being responsible for what you're putting in your body. So make that a habit. If you're not sure about something, build a relationship with your pharmacist. Oh my gosh, pharmacists are such a wonderful resource. They're so knowledgeable and available. They're at a time in our our healthcare history, when our doctors are so often difficult to access and pressed for time and under a lot of stress and strain. And then we have these community pharmacists where you can ask for a moment or two of their time, and generally they are willing and able to give that to you, and you can ask questions. I mean, I go to my pharmacist and I ask questions in preparation for meetings with my doctor, and particularly my son's doctor, to see if my line of thinking is appropriate. So, and that helps me to fine tune my conversations with my doctor, because sometimes the pharmacist will say, yes, you're on the right track. That's an intelligent question to ask, to discuss with your doctor. And sometimes they'll say, no, that I understand where you're coming from, but they'll give me a bit of understanding better of the medications that we're using for my son. And then I understand better why we're going in that direction. And anyway, use your pharmacist, ask questions, understand your medications, understand side effects and how long to expect if you are experiencing side effects, how long they should last, and what you can do to help ease that. Because one of the things that so many of us struggle with is we don't really want to take medications, or we're nervous about them. We're very intolerant of the discomfort that sometimes we experience when we're adjusting to medications. We take it as a sign that they're not right for us, but we forget that the body needs a bit of time to adjust. We forget that we can support ourselves, by following the directions well. If it says take your meds with food, take them with food. Drink a little extra water to help flush the little excess, the buildup as your body's adapting and adjusting. Those little bits of advice are coming from a knowledge and understanding of how medications work in our body. So, I could go on for a while about that, but I think you get the point. Okay, so list your meds, understand your meds, and pay attention to the realities of what to expect with adjusting to your medications. Also, understand what the experience of coming off medications will look like, so that, for example, if you run out of meds, if you fall behind or whatever, that you can understand what's happening to your body, so that you don't kind of panic and freak out. You don't attribute those symptoms of withdrawal or discontinuation as new symptoms of something else, and just in general, so that if you are changing medications, you sort of understand what's happening with your own body. And then, of course, chart. If you are having side effects, symptoms, whatever, jot them down so that you can then later look back and ask yourself, is this gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Is this something I need to address, or is it tolerable? That kind of stuff. Okay, so there's meds. And again, I keep kind of referring to you, but this is valuable regardless if it's for you or somebody you're trying to help navigate and support. So the next piece is make a list in your journal, or jot notes, whatever, of all the different people that are in your life as care providers. And I mean everybody. So this would be your primary care, is who we refer to when we're talking about like either your doctor, or often now it's a nurse practitioner, or maybe you use a family health team. If you don't have primary care, if you unfortunately are one of those many people who aren't able to get a doctor right now, and you're having to visit the emergency room, the local emergency room, or a walk-in clinic, note which clinic you use. And here's a little bit of advice. Try to be as consistent as possible in attending regularly the same clinic or same place. So if you have a doctor, try as much as possible to go to your doctor and not go to, say, an ER or a walk-in clinic. Try to be consistent for a lot of reasons: building relationships, continuity of care, having access to your chart, them being able to find you for follow-up on ordered tests, that kind of stuff. Okay, so make a note of where you generally get your care and with whom. If you have any specialists, if you have any conditions that you're being treated for with somebody else, maybe you have an allergist or a rheumatologist or a cardiologist or any of those agists, write it down. Write down the name of the person, write down the condition that they're working with you for, or if you don't have a diagnosis yet, write down sort of like the situation that they're trying to support you with. If you can, write down the phone number of the clinic that they work out of. Just try to make it robust and all-inclusive. Another really important piece of this is if you have counselors, mental health providers, if you're getting care through a community agency, if you're getting in-home support, physiotherapy, any of that stuff, your dentist. We tend to compartmentalize our health, our limbs of health care. And we tend to sort of forget, maybe you have a neighbor, or maybe your loved one has a neighbor that brings in meals and visits once a week. That person is part of your care team and should be noted for what they do. Because either for yourself or your loved one at some point in time, you may be looking to have some creative solutions. So these people become really strong resources. And also, if things are happening and you want information to be shared, it'll flow more fluidly and effectively for you if people sort of know about each other. And if you have it all in a journal, you can just show it. And especially if you're not well, people can just you can just give them permission. They can look and then, wow, like as a person who was a care coordinator, that kind of stuff is magic. And actually in the world of care coordination right now in the healthcare system, one of the things that we are doing to try to help people navigate this system and get their needs met well is exactly this kind of stuff, what I'm telling you to do here. They're called care plans, and they're tremendously valuable. So this is just me telling you how to make your own, really. Okay, so note, everybody. Now, something really valuable that we often overlook is if somebody is really struggling, especially I find this even more so with people who are really complex situations where they're having a lot of people coming and going from the house to help them, or having to go out to a lot of different appointments, and most especially if it's a person who's being supported in doing all of this, sometimes they lose track, or we lose track, and we actually don't even realize who is doing what their role is, what agency they're from. Sometimes we think people are from the same agency and they're not. So writing, kind of differentiating that, and a really quick and easy way to do that is as these people come in through the home, or as we move around for different appointments, give them the journal and ask them to just jot down their name, their agency, and their role. Okay? Really, really, really helpful to understand who your resources are. Quick and easy one, get a good calendar, chart your appointments, show up for your appointments. This is so important for fluidity of care. This is also for building relationships. And at this day and age, a lot of offices have policies about repeated no-shows. So you can actually lose access to care if you repeatedly forget to show up for appointments. If you're a person who's really struggling to track appointments, obviously electronic calendars are really useful. For me, as a person who's overcoming a brain injury, it's kind of comical, but not really, because what happens is sometimes I forget to enter an appointment into my electronic calendar, or I put it on a paper calendar. I forget to check my calendar. So I recognize that there are limits that still exist even with all of these tools. So sometimes being bold enough to just ask for a specific reminder call. Some offices will do that. Or asking somebody to be your tag team buddy, sharing your calendar with a spouse or a friend or somebody, and so they get the notice as well. Or also giving the name of a different person to the doctor's office or the clinic, and asking that the reminder call be duplicated to the second person. Just create a backup. Be creative. Be creative and be willing to ask. I always say ask. And it's okay if people say no. They can say no. But if you don't ask, then you're not giving yourself an opportunity to be assisted. And if you really want really good care, then you have to let people help you. It's easy, right? It's not easy, but it's straightforward. Okay, so that's a quickie. Either understanding or having a few notes about your significant medical history. And this doesn't have to go like years and years and years back, unless there's something from years back that actually kind of factors into your current health situation. But, just a general little, again, jot notes, point form about any events that have been happening recently, or any complications or struggles. It just helps people to sort of get their bearings if they're encountering you sort of unknown new building a new relationship, it's like let's call it a speed date. It gives you a little head start. Okay, so that's really helpful. And again, super helpful if you become suddenly critically ill, or if you're sort of passing through the healthcare system and having to be moved around a lot and people are trying to figure out where to start to best serve you. This kind of could be a really great reference. Okay. Kind of in that same thought process, wearing a medical alert. It's such a simple thing, but a lot of people who could really benefit or should have them on don't think to. So if you can do that, do. Tucking your med list into your wallet, that kind of stuff. Talking to loved ones about your wishes and advanced care planning. If you are having serious health issues, if you're starting to, join the ranks of the aging population, it's not easy. Those aren't easy conversations. I really understand that, but we should be willing to take on a little bit of that discomfort in the moment to avoid even more serious discomfort later. And if people don't know what your wishes are, if they don't know what your expectations and your hopes for yourself are, they can't help support getting that for you. So you need to talk about it. Just take a deep breath and make a latte and dive in, is my best advice. Maybe a glass of wine. Depends on who you are. So talk, plan, prepare, save a little bit of money. Don't expect that the system's going to provide everything. I wish it could. It used to be able to for a lot of people, but that's just not the world we're living in right now. So you got to be ready to sustain yourself a little bit, and you also have to be willing to sustain your friends and your family and neighbors, and just help out. So, okay. Build a relationship with your care team, the people in your life who are trying to care for you. Sometimes we get this kind of adversarial thing going where it's like we go to them for advice, but then we don't like what they have to say, so then we don't do it, and they're stupid, and we make an appointment, but then we don't show up because we don't really want to hear what they have to say, and it's not really helping, or they just want to give me a bunch of medication, and blah, blah, blah. Our care providers may or may not do exactly what we wish they would do, because they're human, and they're just working from their belief system and their education. And you're human, and you're working from your belief system and your education, which is different from theirs. So obviously, it's not always going to jive perfectly. But why are we going to them if we don't want their advice, if we don't want their input? If you want to be well, you might as well try to follow the advice and the suggestions of the caretakers, right? That doesn't mean follow blindly, obviously, from the advice that I'm giving. That's not my belief system. But you should try, and then and in doing so, that builds a relationship. It shows the person that you value and respect what they have to say. And in return, because human behavior being what it is, they are more likely to value and respect what you have to say when you ask questions, express concerns, ask to consider a different approach to treatment. The better your doctor knows you, the more capable they will be of incorporating that knowledge into a care plan that suits you. Okay? So part of that also is for you to think about what your priorities are, or again, reflecting on if you're supporting somebody else, what are this person's priorities, what motivates them, what makes them happy, it makes them feel well. If you kind of have that understanding, then as you build a relationship with the doctor, you can incorporate that into care plans and just overall recovery planning and what you think is going to work best. And again, this is a direction that we are trying to take in our medical system. It's called patient-centered care. And the idea being that if we, as the support people and care providers, really listen to the patient's desires and goals, everybody wins. Because people recover better and stay well longer when they're internally motivated and feel supported in that. There's a little tricky part to that, which is that sometimes what we feel is important isn't actually important to that person. So sometimes we have to really work to set aside our own agenda and really listen to what the other person is saying, and then figure out how to work within that framework. But it's super powerful stuff, actually. So think about that. Build a relationship with your doctor. You don't have to get along. You don't have to think that this is somebody you would have a beer with later, if you weren't doctor patient. Just ask them to value what you had to say by showing them that you value what they have to say. And if you've watched my other segments, you will know that sort of plays out into also something that I feel is really, really critical, which is our care providers are under so much pressure and strain just because of the nature of their work and where the healthcare system's at right now. So they need to be treated with compassion and dignity and respect, just in general, just as a case of, common courtesy and human resilience. So if you go in your doctor's office and you're pleasant and cooperative and collaborative with them, not passive, still be your own best ally and your best advocate, but just, you're there for a reason. That's good for them. That makes them feel good in their job and in their day, and that's supportive of keeping our health providers healthy and happy and productive in their job, and we should all want that, right? Yeah. Okay. So so keep appointments, build a relationship. Think about adding somebody to your file as a contact and allowing that person to have some access to information, just so that you have an ally who has a bit of a lay of the land, and also that if you really are struggling, that the doctor's office will share some information that could help you. Now that can be a little bit tricky, a little difficult for some people because they've health information feels really private and they don't want to. So, that may or may not work for everybody, but think about it. And there's something really cool happening right now, which is that some facilities, a lot of facilities are now using electronic charting, but some facilities are actually creating access. So here in our area, Ottawa Hospital, they use a system called MyChart, and you get electronic access to view the notes from your visit. Amazing, because it allows you to verify that important points were made and noted. It allows you to check and make sure that you agree with the overall direction of care, suggestions, recommendations, referrals, that kind of stuff. So if you have that kind of resource made available to you, use it, but don't abuse it. So I'll give you a good example. I had an appointment with a neurologist. Wasn't super thrilled with the way that the appointment went. Wasn't super thrilled with the way that everything from the appointment was charted. Okay. I got my back up a little bit. But I didn't go the step further about pursuing it or asking for anything to be changed in the documentation or anything, because the bottom line was the actionable items, the things that mattered, they were there. And because I have a good relationship with my primary caregiver, I was able to say, here's what I think is appropriate, here's what I don't like, And she was able to say, yeah, I see the same thing. I understand. I get it. We're not going to go there. We're going to go here. And so we were fine. So there was no need to demand that they go back and spend any extra time changing notes or doing that kind of thing. But, you know, it could happen, and it's up to you to use your good judgment. But always be mindful of not asking people to take extra time to do extra steps if it's not really imperative to your good care. You know, if it's just about your ego or, you know, differing opinions, then just let it go. That's my best advice. Okay. I want to talk a little bit of understanding capacity and consent and confidentiality and that, but that's actually pretty heavy and a pretty big topic, and it kind of carries over into power of attorney for personal care and mental health. And so I think for today I'm gonna stop here, but I'm sort of, that's my little teaser trailer about where I would like to go in other segments. And I think those topics will be of particular interest to people who are trying to figure out how to be the quarterback for loved ones, for aging partners or parents, or just, you know, even just how to make a plan for yourself about who will be involved as you come into a need for more support and care yourself. And so, time out. I once again, this is so meaningful to me, and I'm so passionate about this, and I just so deeply want people to understand that they can chart their own course to a deeper extent in the healthcare system and still get the care they need. But by needing to understand the system and take responsibility. But it is available, and so doing this really matters to me. And I hope it's meaningful to you. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Please share. I just want to spread the word. So please share, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.